Hello, my beautiful souls. Welcome to another show. I am Michaela Jones, ND, naturopath, energy healer, and integrative holistic health specialist. This is the mind body connection with my good friend, Dr. Michelle Greenwell, PhD in complementary and integrative health. Today, we're going to be talking about whether all exercise is created equal. So often we hear that we need to exercise more, move our bodies more, etc., etc. But sometimes, as both Dr. Michelle and I have discovered, it's not as easy as that. The wrong exercise can actually damage your body. However, the right one can help you heal. So let's jump in. But before we get started, let's ask Michelle what tea she's drinking today. So, what do you have in your cup today, Michelle?
Ooh, okay. So this is a secret. So nobody knows about this tea yet. So you are the exclusive on that because the sneak peek isn't even till Sunday. So I am drinking what's called the autograph. And the autograph is
Ooh.
about finding your personal signature, find the gifts that you have, and then bring your gifts forward so that other people can shine with their own gifts. And so that's what I have. And I have it in a cold version today instead of in a hot version. So
Oh,
cheers.
that's awesome. That's awesome. Thank you. I look forward to trying that one. So, for those of you who don't know, Dr. Michelle, she is the owner of Cape Breton Tea Company, and she makes all of these awesome teas that, just has like all kinds of benefits and it does all kinds of good things. So, you should definitely check that out. So, let's get into today's show. So, we have a lot of information today. This is like something that's very near and dear to my heart. I had so much that I wanted to share with you that I don't think we'll be able to share it all in one show. So I'm actually thinking about turning this into a little mini series, if you will. But we will try to, hit on the top topics here today about this because this is so important. Now, Dr. Michelle and I, well, I'm just kind of Michelle because she's my friend. So Michelle and I, we collaborate a lot and, we have a lot of overlap, but we also approach things different but the same. So where, we both have this whole body, mind, emotions approach, the way we do it varies, and that's part of what this conversation is today, is that there is no one thing that works for everyone, and it's very important to know what's right for you. And then today we're going to be talking about exercise and how exercise can not only affect your physical body but also your mind and your emotional state, and how everything's all interconnected and you can't really separate it. So we're just going to jump in and you'll see what I'm talking about as we go along. So, like I said, I have a ton of notes. So, if you see me looking down, it's because I just want to make sure that I give you all of the good stuff. So, all right. So let's just jump in. So, the first point that we're going to talk about is how emotional stress and trauma can manifest in physical tension in the body or restrictive movement. So, Michelle, would you like to start with that?
I'd be happy to start with that because I have had a body that has had all kinds of things go on with it over the years. And I'm sure everybody else has a similar story. But each one of those injuries, surgeries, hospitalizations, allergy tests, you name it, I've had lots of experience with it. All of those pieces have pocketed inside the tissue in my body to the point where I lost the ability to walk. I lost the ability to
Wow.
speak loud enough that people could hear me. And I've had to figure out how to remove those blocks. That's how much impact all of those events can have. And they can be small events, just simple. You don't even think about it. Something happens, it's out of your mind and off you go. But your body remembers and it puts it somewhere. And so it could put it in your elbow as an idea. And then all of a sudden that elbow isn't working quite right. And then you go and try to fix it, but the elbow is telling you there's a problem. Something's locked here and I need you to let it go. just continue to try to fix the problem. And so then we end up with lots of things happening. But across time, if you don't fix those problems, you end up like me. Inability, you cannot get across the floor because your feet are in so much pain, and moving is
Yeah.
just so difficult. And I'm sure there's lots of people listening right now who are going, oh, I so get that. But the question is, as I said with the autograph tea, what is your gift? Your gift may be how to listen. And when you start listening, the body starts to let go. And that opportunity to open up to the gifts that are going to come from that are going to be amazing. And then you become what you and I are like, the inspirations for other people, right? Because
Right.
we start to
Yeah.
understand how it works, and we want to tell everyone, here's how it works. And then you start to really help each other to heal. So that's a big, big box of gifts all wrapped into one. And it all comes from movement or lack of movement, which is incredible.
Yeah, 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 yeah. And from my perspective as a naturopath, I found that, um, emotional blockages, they actually, can the negative, particularly like negative stuff, can get stuck in the body. And it produces things like stress and anxiety and trauma, and it gets stored there. And then when it gets stored in those parts of the body, it manifests as physical tension or pain or even restrictive movements. And being able to let go of that, as will have a very positive effect on the body, because, just like, we have like outside forces that can exert pressure on our bodies and restrict our movements, such as like casts and brace and stuff like that. The emotions can also do that same thing. And being able to remove those emotional blockages can allow the body to function more efficiently, and it can reduce that tension and that pain and improve the circulation, the immune function, and just help our bodies to be more balanced overall, which contributes to our well-being. So, yeah, so thank you for starting us off, in this very, very important discussion, because yeah, you can't, as I said when we started this, is that you can't disconnect those, which we're going to talk about disconnections here in a little bit too. You can't disconnect those because it is the mind body connection. And you have to look at the big picture, so, and how one can affect the other. And just like our physical limitations can affect our mental and emotional states, our emotional states can also affect our physical well-being. So yeah, so this is a very, very important discussion today. So
Mhm.
all right, so let's just keep moving. So let's talk a little bit more about individuality, because that's what we're here for today. Because as the topic says, is all exercise created equal? So I say no. So, and I want to dig deeper into why that is. So, from your standpoint, Michelle, um, let's examine different forms of exercise and why certain ones are not suitable for everyone. So, what's your take on it? You tend to be more into the dance and the tai chi, and I'm more into the yoga and the somatics. So, so it's different but the same. So, what's your take on it?
You're right. They're different but the same because all of them are releasing emotion, and they're doing it in a very relaxed manner. And what I think a lot of people don't realize is if they are in a really high stress life situation, so it could be what's happening at home, but it could also be just the kind of work that they do, and they're in this high stress level thing, it's the thing to do is to go to the gym and work out. And then those people, being of that personality, I'm just going to speak from experience of, go, 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 get to the gym and they work really, really hard until they're exhausted. And then they're going to go grab that coffee after the gym to boost themselves back up again because they exhausted themselves, but their body was already exhausted before. So they set themselves up into this huge cycle. Yes, it'd be lovely to have a workout, but if your body is tired and stressed and tight, and then you say, I'm going to make you tighter because I'm going to run
Mm,
you harder, or I'm going to get on that treadmill,
yeah.
and instead of doing 15 minutes today, we're going to do 40. And the body's going, I don't even want you to get on the treadmill. Or the body could be saying, I only want 5 minutes. That's it. And we say, I'm going to override you. But then we put ourselves into this incredible stress situation. And so we have to really look at what is appropriate for where you are today. And today could be you didn't sleep well. You were up late finishing a project. Today's the day where you might want to do yoga. You might want to do Tai Chi. And you want to, not that it's any less exercise, it's actually more exercise, because what you're doing is calmly opening the systems up and creating the opportunity for them to function better and react and respond and heal from what you've just put them through. And I don't think people
Yeah.
think about that. They're thinking about the workout. And I know that from my fitness, background and training, get that heart rate up, do all those things. Yes, but at the appropriate times when your body is really ready and has the fuel and is set to do a workout that's going to really benefit itself. But you have to think about exercise as, how is it going to help you heal? And it can't help you heal if you put more stress into the system.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think it's very important for us to be aware of our body and listen to the signals that our bodies are trying to send us, because sometimes, there are certain exercises that are not good for us at that particular time. And it may be something we've done for years, but at that particular moment, at that particular time, that it's not good for us. And if we, you know in today's world, we hear the saying, no pain no gain, all the time, okay? But sometimes the pain is your body telling you, don't do this right now. And we have to learn to listen to our bodies, listen to those cues in order to do what is appropriate for us at that time, so we don't hurt ourselves physically. And so, like, for instance, I like I said, I have so much information I want to share, but I'm trying to keep it, to a minimum, because we just only have a certain amount of time. But beyond just preventing injury and physical burnout when we're paying attention to our bodies. It can also, doing the appropriate exercise can also help promote our healing and recovery as well. Because sometimes we need that downtime. Sometimes we don't need to be, blasting through, you know, the heavy weights and stuff. Sometimes we need to be doing the gentle workout that is allowing our body time to, to recover and stuff. Sometimes it's about, just our mind body connection, and learning to tune into our body. Sometimes our body is like giving those little signals because it wants us to pay attention. So, if we not paying attention, then those signals become heavier and harder, and then eventually it becomes a negative and not a positive. So there are so many reasons why it's important for us to, to listen to those signals, because I kind of feel like if your body is signaling discomfort or an unease during a particular exercise, that is telling you that it's not right for you right now. And maybe a gentler form of exercise in your body's current state is better, because if you keep forcing it to do something, that's harsher on it, it could cause more harm, or even produce even more emotional stress.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because physical stress can be emotional stress, so it's all interconnected. So yeah, so I think that's very, very important to tailor it, to your own individual needs. And our individual needs can not only change with age or physical issues, but it can, change from day to day. Yes, actually, yeah, thank you, Jessica. So Jessica is listening to us right now, and she said, listen to your body. Absolutely, absolutely. So yeah, we always need to listen to our bodies, because if we don't, we can do more damage than good. And we don't want to do that to our bodies. So it's important to know what's right for you when it's right for you. And that can change not only from year to year, season to season, but also day to day. So it's important to be tuned in.
Mhm. Yep.
All right. You want to add anything to that? Because I kind of took over that piece of the discussion.
It's an example that one of the first students I worked with in Cape Breton, and she's a senior, and she came to my Tai Chi class, and she had a lot of trouble with just standing up straight. And she would go on at least 1 kilometer, 2 kilometer walks every day, sometimes longer, but she would always take the same route. And then pretty soon she couldn't breathe very well. And then she would have panic attacks while she was walking. And so then, that's anti anxiety medication. And then she ended up with a pacemaker. And when I finally met her, we started to look at what is your posture doing? Well, you're collapsing. You collapse right over the lungs and heart. So, what does that produce? That
Yeah.
produces the feeling of anxiety. That
Yes.
produces the inability to get a full breath. So, what she thought was a panic attack was actually this collapsed posture. And so when we took the time to step back and straighten the posture out so she could be upright before she went for a walk, that made a huge difference. But then we also did some personal checking in with what route did the body want to actually walk. She always went for the hill because that would give you a good cardio workout. But
Yeah.
her body wasn't ready for that every day. So sometimes it was take the walk that's on the flat. Other days could be take the walk that takes the hill first, and then you come back downhill. And the other was go downhill first and then come back uphill. So she had about 8 different routes by the time we finished putting everything together. And what a difference that made. Pretty soon
Yeah.
she wasn't needing the medication because there were no more panic attacks. And then she realized perhaps she hadn't needed that pacemaker. But in all of the push to try to do what she learned in the fitness industry during our aerobic time, get out there and no pain, no gain, that had pushed her body well beyond where it needed to be. And now when I see her, she's vibrant and she's a go-getter.
Mm.
And it just, that one always stands out for me because it was so physically strong in how you could see the difference that produced out of it. And what a difference that made for her life when we were able to prioritize what she needed.
Awesome, awesome. I love hearing those great stories like that. Yeah. It just reminds me of why we do what we do, So
Yeah.
awesome. So thank you for sharing that. So now let's look at, the next thing I wanted to discuss, which I feel like is a bigger issue just based on a lot of the clients that I work with, and it's about trauma. So you know exercise can be used as a tool for trauma release. A lot of people don't realize that. Of course, you and I both know that, but exercise can be used as a release, as trauma release. So the thing to recognize, though, is that trauma is not only a psychological experience. It can become deeply embedded in the body, and it manifests. Can manifest in ways such as physical tension or pain, emotional numbness, and any other types of physical issues. A lot of people don't realize that sometimes those physical issues are rooted in trauma, which is going to be emotional in nature. And there are certain types of exercise that focus on movement and breath and body awareness that can help release these stored emotions. Because remember, we just talked about how sometimes those emotions get stored and stuck in those body parts, and those stored emotions can cause imbalance in those parts of the body. But beyond that, where are those stored emotions coming from? So you have not only the emotions, but also the trauma experiences that can also get stuck there. And manifest in muscle tension and physical pain. It can disrupt the nervous system. It can disrupt, your emotional expression, things of that nature. So before I get into all of my piece, what is your take on this? So I want to hear your take on this.
Mhm. Coming from my Touch for Health background, if I give you that background first, you have a relationship between the muscles to the organ systems and muscles to certain emotions, depends on which system they
Mhm.
belong to. So if it was for the wood element is the liver and the gallbladder, those organ systems, which includes a lot of things, not just the organ. But then you have the muscles that go with that. And
Yeah,
so you have some of the muscles that are in the upper body and some are in the lower body. They're all related to anger and resentment. So
yeah,
if you had some kind of an experience where you had an altercation with someone and you got really angry, then it can pocket within that tissue.
yeah,
And then that emotion comes up again later on, and your body recognizes it and it goes back to a posture or a movement or a holding pattern that protects you, that it remembers from the last time you were angry. And so people don't think about that. They'll say, I went to pick up that box and I hurt my back and I don't understand. I didn't do anything. It wasn't even a heavy box. No, it
yeah,
wasn't. But your emotional status at that moment matched something else and your body
right.
recognized it. You bent for the box and it went, this is going to be too heavy. And whoop, there's my back. And then, and it can be for days before you recover from it. And that's because you didn't address then the emotional aspect. You probably got a hot pad. You probably lied down on the couch to relax. You probably maybe added some water or something to it. And you'll say, I'm going to rest. But body is looking for resolution. It's looking for how
Yeah,
can I bring those emotions back into balance so that never has to happen again. And then that's the kind of work we can do. We can help to identify what emotion is stuck. Where is it stuck? What is it doing for you? Is it doing a pattern that is really debilitating for you? And then shift you out of that. So that's my Touch for
yeah.
Health answer.
Yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. And then the work that I do, again, same but different, is that whole emotional state body connection, and how, certain types of emotions and traumas can affect certain parts of the body. For instance, a lot of people that I deal with tend to have um, issues in their hips in particular. And hips are one of those places that stores a lot of trauma. And generally, the trauma in the work that I do that it's stored there is usually stuff that comes from childhood. So it particularly in women, it's like we have these childhood things that we're carrying around that get stored in our hips. Then as we get older, our hips, start to feel a little wonky and stuff. And we start to think, oh, it's just because I'm getting older. And it's like, well, that could be part of it, but what traumas do you have stored there that from early childhood, or from lack of stability, or any of those other things that can affect that hip area, that is also manifesting in the hips dysfunctioning. So yeah, so absolutely. So I find that it's very, very important for us to be able to address those traumas that are getting stuck in our bodies, in order for our bodies to be able to operate as efficiently and optimally as it can.
And
So
if you look at the hip also from the Chinese medicine perspective and from Tai Chi, the hip, as you open and close the hip area, that builds and stores energy. So
mm,
if you have a really tight set of hips and you never move, you're always seated, you're always in a static
mhm,
position, maybe you stand, but you don't actually move that much, then you end up not building energy and maintaining your vitality. And you don't realize
mm,
those two are connected. And that the way that you move and how you choose to move to build and store energy is going to make a difference for how your whole day is going to function. So the hips
yeah.
are so important. And if you're complaining about your hips, then definitely you want to do something about it.
Absolutely, absolutely. Like I said, I deal so much with people who have issues in their hips and their legs in particular. And it's like, okay, what are you storing there? In order to be able to function properly, we also need to access what's there, what's stored there, and release all of that. And there are different ways that you can release that. I also do energy work. So I do help clients with, emotion release and things like that, and releasing energy, releasing the traumas on an energetic level. But you can also use exercise, actual physical exercise, to also release that. So for those of you who are like, oh, that's too woo for me with the energy work, you can also do it with physical exercise too, which is our next point that what we're going to talk about is, about physical health and alignment. So, I want to take a minute to, to talk about the importance of proper alignment in exercise and how it affects physical health. And this is where Michelle excels. This is her
Like
thing.
that.
It's yeah, it's all about the alignment, and alignment is key because proper alignment in exercise is crucial for not only ensuring that movements are performed safely and efficiently, but it also allows the body to function optimally and it affect our physical health in many ways, including preventing injuries, being able to maximize our exercise efficiently. It also reduces muscle imbalances. It protects the joints. It improves our posture. It enhances our breathing and oxygen flow. It promotes better balance and stability. It can also enhance our long-term mobility and flexibility. It can promote mental focus and mindfulness, and my favorite, it supports our energy flow, our chi. And I know that's where Michelle is going to just like, yeah, baby. So, Michelle, why
Mhm.
don't you take this point?
Take it from there. Okay. So one of the things I would love to bring up is that we should have open joints. That means all the joints should be freely moving with no effort. And if they're not, then that's when you know you have imbalance going on. And so in Tai Chi, we stand on what's called the bubbling spring. So you have the ball of the foot, and then you have just below that. And when you actually stand on your foot there, the whole foot can flex, but also every joint in the body opens up. And that is your true open stance with full energy flow. Most people stand back into their heels. That locks up their thighs. It locks up the lower back and it creates this pull back. So if you think about wanting to go forward in life and try new things, you can't because you're going to be stuck back in this space. And that creates tension and imbalance. So then your movements all go from there. And in
Mhm.
Tai Chi, as soon as we've done just a couple exercises, and they can just be basic ones, not even a full set of movements, we can have everything stack up with no effort. And a lot of people will go, well, I can stand up straight. And then they go, pull the shoulders back, squeeze the shoulder blades together, neck comes back, but that's all artificial. That's not natural. You want to be standing naturally. And we call it standing down when we're in a dance format. But standing down is you sink down into everything and you find the openness. And that's where, if you needed to, you could jump off the ball of your foot right away. Then you know you're in the right spot. Most people can't do that. They're too locked and holding back. Mm.
Mm, okay. Awesomeness. So let's dig a little deeper into this though, because I feel like this is a very, very important point, because so many people, they will they're trying to help themselves by exercising, but many times they're not doing it properly, just as you were just talking about. And there is a saying that comes to mind when I think about this, about how um, self-sabotage is misguided self-care. Okay, so I
Mhm.
think sometimes if we're not properly doing something and we don't take the time to know what's proper and we're doing it even though we're trying to help ourselves, we actually end up sabotaging ourselves and sabotaging our own health. You know,
Mhm.
uh, for instance, the point I made about, proper alignment helps you prevent injury. It's like, if you're lifting weights and you're not lifting them properly, you put undue stress on different muscles and tendons that shouldn't
Mhm.
have that stress, okay, in that particular movement, which in turn you keep doing that causes more problems. So in your attempt to be good to yourself and exercise, you're actually making it worse. You're actually doing damage. But as we talked about earlier, though, but when you're doing the exercises that are helping you to release that tension and release that trauma, that actually is very positive for you. And I want to jump back real quick to types of exercise, and feel free to jump in. I know you're more on the tai chi and the dance and movement and stuff, and I love that, which is one of the reasons why I love chatting with you about that. And I tend to be more on the yoga and somatics. There are actually many types of exercise that can help you release, that emotional tension, which, manifests in physical tension, depending on where you are and what you need. Yoga is just one of them. Tai Chi is one of them. Dance is one of them. There's actually some work that's called tremor release, which is really good for people, experiencing PTSD. Running and cardiovascular exercise can actually be really good because it helps you release all, that pent up stuff that keeps you tight, that, ugh. Um, I talked about somatics, boxing and martial arts, which Tai Chi actually is a martial art, you know, can also help with that. Little known story about me. I actually used to be a kickboxer. I love boxing. It was like one of my things, it was like really good when the kids were little. It's like I can just go and punch and kick and just get all the stresses of the day out. So there are many different types of exercise, and those different types can help you with that release that you need. But it's very important, as we were talking about, to make sure that you're doing it properly and you're using proper alignment so you don't do actual further damage to your bodies, and you can get the most benefit out of that exercise for what you need it for. So would you like to add to that?
And I think one of the things, when you say somatics and dance, and people think about there's many forms of dance,
Yeah.
but the key piece is if you're looking at a self-care program and you're looking at how you want to improve your wellness, then you want to look at how you develop whole body movement skills. And you can get it through all those different formats, but it's the whole body movement which brings you back to integrating all of the body. And that helps those emotions to move through the systems because the whole body's involved. That means all the systems are going to be involved.
Yeah.
You can go and do those isolated movements, but if you continue to overuse the same parts where the emotion happens to be sitting, that's when you run into a little bit of challenge. But when you start to realize that if you push through your feet, you can have more power in your kick, that's a really cool thing. And then martial arts, that's what happens. You learn how to connect to the
Yeah.
floor, how to come out of the floor, and then how to really move your energy and move your chi. And in somatics, it's about finding where it feels stuck and then being able to either gently move through that stuckness or move away from the stuckness
Hmm.
so you can move towards flow, and that sticky part can start to be pulled a little bit. And that again is releasing emotion, and that you can be thinking about different stories or patterns or what you want in life and start to move and feel what feels really good in relation to what it is you really want out of life. So it's an interesting way to think about movement rather than so much the I'm going to go for my 3 kilometer run because that's what I do every day. And I'm going to listen to whatever in my earphones, the podcast, the beat of
Yeah.
music because it gets me to my heart rate. All of that is mindlessness kind of things. And sometimes we need to be more mindful and really present to that conversation our body wants to have with us.
Right. Now, I wanted to also kind of jump back to, to exercise and release. And one of the things that I like, um, and most people don't consider it an exercise, but I find that it really is. So I want to hear your take on it because I know because I know you're up for this as well. So, and that's breath work. I love breath work. Most people don't think of that as exercise because it's like, oh, you're just breathing. But, you know, as you talked about earlier, it's like in the lungs and that posture and everything. And breath work is so good for not only emotion release, because sometimes you know how the shirt just says just breathe. There is a reason why that saying exists. It's like, so it's so good for emotion release, but also for processing that trauma, like you were just talking about the somatics and being able to move to it and move through it. But it also helps you increase your self-awareness as well, because you have to come within yourself and you're focusing on your breath, and you start to notice all of the different movements in your body and how your body's responding. And I think that awareness that can come from that breath work can be carried over into other forms of exercise too, because it increases your awareness of your body. So as you're doing whatever form of exercise, you can recognize what's working and what's not working, and what is good for you and what is not good for you. I know with many of the clients that I work with, no matter what format I work with them in, it's always about teaching them awareness and learning their bodies and how their bodies talk to them and being able to listen to it. So, yeah. So, do you have something you would like to add with that?
Yeah, it's interesting as you're talking because I totally agree with everything you've said. And I understand the power of breathing. And if I have a really great facilitator leading a class, I can enjoy it. But if I'm by myself, the last thing I want to do is sit and breathe. It actually gives me more tension. And if somebody says, breathe in for 4, hold for 4, breathe out for 4, wait for 4, I'm like, I'm done because that pattern I have to think too hard. So
Yeah.
I'm going to say this to be the devil's advocate of the other side for those people who are like me who get stressed out by thinking about how they're going to breathe that way. And so if you go to some dance forms plus Tai Chi, the breath happens automatically while you're going through the movements.
Yeah.
So for me, then I don't have to get stressed out about something. It helps me move through it. And then all of a sudden I'm just breathing deeply. And I can get there very quickly. And I can get there with a couple different movements. But what I find for myself is I need to have the movement to get me there. And so
Okay. Yeah.
for other people, they need the stillness. So the meditation works well for them to have stillness and the deep breath comes in. So I just want to bring that forward because there may be people listening that then go, that's not for me. But then also you and I both have where different things work differently. So then it's
Right.
about finding that right balance to really find how you engage with the breath.
Yeah.
But
And I would add too that just sitting and just paying attention to your breath can also be a good thing, whether you're doing boxed breathing or count breathing or whatever. Just being able to sit and breathe can slow you down enough to allow you to come out of that fight or flight mode, which is very beneficial because I feel like in today's society we all so high strung all the time that we are in a constant state of fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. And
Mhm.
of course it manifests different ways for different people, but there is so much around us, that just being able to take a moment to sit and breathe, whether you're doing, counted breath, or you're doing, like, breathing exercise or anything like that, can also still be beneficial. So
Mhm. Yeah, yeah.
so yeah.
But then that's that finding that right piece
Yeah,
for you. And then know that
exactly.
there's lots of different ones out there, and it's good to know that's what you are. And then another one that we haven't talked about is being outside in nature.
Hmm.
Because for me, if I go put my bare feet in the grass and just stand, everything transforms for me. But if
Ah,
I stayed in
yeah.
the house and kept my foot on, just a regular floor, I can't achieve that same result as I can, and that engagement that I have with nature. And if we spend most of our time indoors, we may really lose the fact that if we just moved out of our circumstances, our what's around us, that might make a huge difference. So
Yeah.
just remember, nature is pretty valuable for us. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that. One of my favorite things to do, and I call myself solar powered because I have to have sun. Otherwise I get run down. So one of my favorites is I just like to go outside, and I will go out in my barefoot, and I will stand and face the sun. I mean, close my eyes. Obviously, you don't want to look directly at the sun, and I would face the sun with head up, and just stand there for a little bit and let my body absorb, some sunlight. And it just can totally change my day in an instant.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. So I agree with that. Being out in nature is also a very easy exercise. Again,
Yeah.
this is again, this is about listening to yourself, listening to your body, discovering what works for you, what doesn't work for you, whether it's in the moment, or it's at that time, or is it, it's about discovering what's best for you and utilizing that, because one thing, it's not all created equal, because not no one exercise is going to work for everyone at every time. So,
Hmm.
so it's important to know how to, read your body, how to connect to your body, how to know what it's saying to you, so you can adjust accordingly. So let's get into the next point. So, this is a good segue into the next point, and this is about, the mental health benefits of, different exercise um, forms. I think it's very important that we talk about mental health. It's great that now mental health is coming more to the forefront, and people are talking more about the importance of mental health. Um, for so long, for so many years, people didn't talk about it. Everybody kept everything, bottled up, because you were considered weak. If you showed, that you were having mental health issues or whatever. And mental health issues, is not only like the big issues, but it can be the small issues too. The sadness, the depression. Although some people would consider depression a big one, depends on where you are. So there, just like there's a range of people, there's also a range of mental health issues. And from my aspect, for me, mental health is more about clarity. So, and I find that, there are certain exercises that really work well for promoting mental clarity by, reducing, that anxiety, reducing the stress, reducing the cortisol, and really connecting yourself more, between the mind and the body. And so when you're more connected in mind and body, which is the reason why I call this the mind body connection, it can help you process and release emotions, and it can, create, more mental clarity, more mental focus. And when we have more clarity and focus, that tends to cut through those situations that are going to create mental health crises. So let's talk a little bit about that. Let's talk about your side of this.
As you were talking, I was thinking about Some people think mental health is what happens to you, but it isn't. It's mental health is what you do for you.
Yeah.
So mental health is telling you when you're in balance and flow and when you're not. And then taking the time to really be engaged with the activities that create balance and flow becomes so important. And again, as I said with one of the examples before with anger and resentment, if you look at fear and anxiety is on the water element. A lot of people are dehydrated. They think mental health. They have this fear and anxiety. They have these panic attacks. They're anxious all the time. And it actually could be the action they take to stay hydrated.
Mm,
But from a mental health perspective, they're like, I need help with my anxiety. Do
yeah.
you need help with your anxiety, or do you need to take care of yourself? And are you taking the best care possible of yourself that you can? And so just to think about what emotion is showing up, what system does that belong to, and am I supporting that system the best way I can? And maybe you are, maybe you aren't, maybe you need some help. You might need a facilitator to do that, somebody to identify your priorities. And then you have a responsibility to go and do that job to make sure that you're taking care of yourself. And so, from the mental health perspective, if you start to think about mental health is what I provide to myself,
Yeah.
then it's no
Yeah.
longer the blame, right? I have a right? I have anxiety and depression. I have. Yes, you
Right.
might want to claim it, but I personally would rather not claim it. I'd rather say, I'm feeling this way right now. What do
Yes.
I need to do to change me from that position? And that's and this kind of goes back to the question before, but when you move the shoulder seams and the hip seams, they feed the brain. But if you are frozen and you spend a lot of time in front of a computer, gaming, driving a car, and you're frozen, those seams are not moving, then your brain is not being empowered because it needs to have that movement to feed it with information so it knows how to respond. But if
Yeah.
you're frozen, the response you're giving it is you're frozen, and it goes, okay, well, if you're frozen, here's how I need to respond. But
Right.
that's not
Right.
necessarily true, right? You need that movement to really engage the brain in here's how I'm living. And then it
Yeah.
says, great, you're living really well. I don't have to do very much, but I'm a little thirsty, so I'm just going to pick that volume up a bit so you'll go and get a drink of water. Like, so there's this conversation that can happen, but you really have to be engaged with how your body is functioning and what you're doing with it.
Yeah. No, I agree. And as you were talking, I started thinking about the whole, anxiety piece. um,
Mhm.
because I see that a lot. I see both depression and anxiety. And honestly, they kind of come, from the same sorts of things. Except one is a heightened state and one is you know, a lowered state, if you will. And so, in particular, what I was thinking about, just because of the type of work I do, um, I see a lot of anxiety that kind of comes along with high cortisol. It's like that stress. We were talking about stress earlier, but the bigger piece of that, because I think a lot of you, if you've been following me a while, you know that one of my major things that I teach on and I deal with is chronic inflammation, which is like just basically, if you get down to brass tacks, is basically just like high stress for extended periods of time. Okay.
Chronic high all the time.
And just being able to reduce the and release stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline, those particular stress hormones contributes a lot to the anxiety, which creates the brain fog, and it reduces your focus and reduces your mental clarity. And so just being able to, and I'm just trying to tie this into, more of the physical aspects of things, just being able to, if you do nothing else, if you can reduce your stress some, that will go such a long way in your mental health.
Hmm.
because just being able to release that stress hormones, can help, help the body, help that brain function, so you're not having all that brain fog, which gives you more clarity. Being able to, increase your mind body awareness also creates more mental clarity by helping you address the stress before it accumulates, because if you're aware of where your stress is coming from, maybe you can do something on the front end of that before it gets too bad. It can also help you, be able to sleep better, so your body can restore itself better, because our bodies tend to heal and restore when we're in those sleep modes, and when we're down, it needs that rest to repair itself and do all those things. So there are just so many points that I could hit, though, about how, you know, different types of exercise can actually have very good mental health benefits. And, beyond just, okay, I'm going to go for a run. Yes, going for a run, if you're all pent up, can absolutely help your mental health state, because you can release that tension. However, as we've talked about, though, if for some reason you're having problems in your hips and you don't have proper alignment and you go for that run, you're going to cause more damage in your body. That's actually going to do the opposite. It's going to create more stress. So what do you think about that, Michelle?
And well, it's very true. It's very true. And so that's when you look at what are the things that you do before you run. So, have you done an activity that will help you release the neck muscle, calm the vagus nerve right off the bat? So, as you were talking at the opening of the show, I started rubbing my ears. And I did that because that meant I could calm all of the people listening really
Yeah,
easily, right? Now the
yeah,
vagus nerve has calmed.
yeah,
Vagus nerve wraps around all the organ systems. The organ
yeah,
system's a little bit happier. Maybe you do a little bit of spine rotation, turns you from side to side. You're waking up all the muscle groups. Now all the muscles are turning on. They
yeah,
might not, but for the most part, you can inspire them to turn on. And those are just two short little things that you've done before you set out for the walk and or the run. And my foot rub, the feet first system rub, that actually engages all the joints to talk to each other. So if you're going to go and land on your foot and bounce off of that, it would be really nice to know that the ankle, the knee, the hip, the back, the shoulders, the neck, all were in a conversation and they went, we're good with that. You hit the floor, they come back out of it. But if you just go, I'm just going to run, and then the body goes, oh, and you hit that first bit and the ankle goes tight, it locks. The knee goes, oh, there's no buoyancy there, it locks. And then pretty soon you notice up in the shoulder, all of a sudden it's like, gee, my back is really hurting me. I can't understand why.
yeah.
I was out for a run. It should have been my feet. But nope, the weak point is up over here. So it just to really think about how you start your activity, how you engage the body, in what way do you de-stress it before you decide you're going to put a little bit more stress into the system. And it's not that we don't want you out doing physical activity. We do want you to be engaging, but to really think about the quality and
Mhm.
what quantity means. Because, it's not necessarily keep adding more reps to something. It's what is the quantity that you need to have the quality. And then you really maximize mental health, physical health, spiritual health. Yeah, it's all there.
Yeah, and you just so eloquently wrapped up the entire thing we were talking about, and this connection, the body mind connection, and how you got to look at all of it. It's like, yeah, exercise is good for you, but make sure you're doing the right exercise and you're doing it, the right way with the right intention
At the right time.
at the right time
Hmm.
to get the maximum benefits for you and your body,
Hmm.
because we want to be able to function optimally, not only today in the present, but also in the future as well. You know, a lot of people, they look at me and they don't realize that I'm as old as I am, and I own that. Yay me! Um, and many times they like to just say, "Oh, it's good genes." Well, maybe a little bit of that, but just like you're born with genes that can be negative, you're not predisposed. You're not predisposed to what the negative side of those genes create. You can make those changes that are needed in order to be in optimal health. By the same token, just because you say you got good genes, which sometimes I'm not going to say necessarily offended by it, but it's like you're discounting working on yourself and taking care of yourself and making the right choices and the right decisions for you so you can be in optimal health. So it's more than just about good genes. It's about, knowing what your body is saying, making the changes that you need, whether it's day to day, season to season, year to year, so you can live that long, healthy life with not only a great physical body, but a great mental body and a great emotional body. And that's what true holistic whole body care is. It's, you know, body, mind, and spirit all
Mhm.
together. You can't take one without the other, they all affect each other. So it's important to address it all from that holistic standpoint.
Mhm. Mhm.
So we're coming to the end of our time. So I'm going to let Michelle have the final word here. So, what would you like to leave us with today, Michelle?
Well, I would lead you with lead or leave. I'd lead you with know what your outcome is that you're looking for. So if it is that you want to be really physically fit, or you want to be out in nature more often, or you just want to be able to move those hips much easier, then know what your ultimate goal is. And then consider how many different activities or steps could get you to that goal. And then be able to look at what are going to be the key ones that are going to allow you to de stress or take advantage of the times when you do have that energy, or are going to build the energy so you have more vitality so that the hips will move better. But to really look at the format of that. And if that's too much to think about, then reach out to someone who does the energy aspects of movement, the kind of work that we do, because they're going to be looking at it from a very different framework than going to a fitness trainer. And a fitness trainer is going to be great if you have a goal, you want to run that competition. That's great. But look a little bit more about what it is you want with the quality of what you're doing. And then how can we assist you to figure out that formula that's going to allow you to get there in a joyous, vibrant, holistic way and release those emotions, release the tension, and to be living your best life.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. So that's it pretty much for today's show. Thank you all who are listening live. We love that you're here. Join us next time. And if you're listening to this after the fact, you can catch us live every first Friday of the month, 1 p.m. Central. So join us live too. Sometimes, if you're joining us live and you have questions, we'll answer your questions too, be more spontaneous, So that is it for today. Again, like I said, thank you for joining us. We are passionate about helping others and bringing you important information, so you can live your best life going forward. And yeah, so until next time, this is Michaela and Michelle, and we'll see you next time.
All the best.
This episode is brought to you by Living Naturally for Life, the Greenwell Center for Holistic Health, and Cape Breton Tea Company. Comment, like, subscribe.